Political corruption is the use of powers by government officials or their network contacts for illegitimate private gain. Forms of corruption vary, but can include bribery, lobbying, extortion, cronyism, nepotism, parochialism, patronage, influence, peddling, graft, and embezzlement. Nepotism refers to when those who have power unfairly favor their family members in the workplace. Examples of this special treatment may include giving the favored individual a job, providing more and greater opportunities within a company, or increasing their pay or benefits. KRS 522-020 official misconduct makes it a crime for a public servant to knowingly commit an act related to their office with the intent to obtain a benefit, injure someone, or deprive someone of a benefit.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You may notice, of course, that we are not at the courthouse. I appreciate EMS making their facility available to us. We would normally be at the courthouse for a hearing such as this. However, there was a trial scheduled for late this afternoon, and there was no reasonable guarantee that we would be able to get the courtroom.
But yeah, and that complaint, it's one of the previous complaints, and well, it'll be very interesting tomorrow. So there's no whole lot of stuff going to come out, and I can say out there to the one person who decided he wanted to go down that road, he's probably going to be like a couple other ones over in Indiana. He's probably going to regret it by the end of the hearing.
My name is Jonathan Ricketts. I represent Mr. Troy Seeley. He's the complainant in this case. You know this. We've been in front of you. The last time we were before you, we were discussing the issue of probable cause. You found probable cause, and now this hearing is proceeding. We're here tonight because public service is a public trust. Public service is a public trust. What does that mean? It means that when you engage in government service, when you are elected to office to serve the taxpayers, you are held to a higher standard. You are expected to be a steward of taxpayer dollars, of the responsibility that's placed before you. And tax rates increase, and taxpayers pay those increased taxes every year. And as part of that, they implicitly agree that you're going to use those resources wisely. That's what they do. Yes, raise my taxes. I want to pay my fair share for the services I receive. And in exchange for that, I expect you, public servant, to use those services, use those tax dollars wisely. Your county government embodied that theme or that responsibility in the ordinance. And that ordinance set before you the standards of conduct, the minimal standards of conduct which are expected of anyone who engages in public service. And the ones that are relevant for tonight are going to be the standards of conduct identified as A, B, and C in your ordinance 2011-06 passed in July of 2011. And briefly, those standards of conduct prohibit any government official from engaging in business or a business transaction or any professional activity which is in substantial conflict with the proper discharge of their duties in the public interest. B, which is no government official shall use his official position to secure unwarranted privileges for himself or others. And then lastly, no county or government official shall act in his or her official capacity where he has a direct or indirect financial or personal involvement that might reasonably be expected to impair his objectivity or independence of judgment.
Upon entering office as the newly elected jailer of the Meade County, Kentucky jail, jailer J.J. Scarborough began a romantic relationship with his subordinate, a nurse at the jail named Amber Brown. The affair went largely unnoticed by most, until Nurse Brown became pregnant with Scarborough's child, which likely didn't fare well with Scarborough's wife and child at home, prompting a divorce and leaving behind another statistical American child in a broken home. But Scarborough and Brown didn't stop there. Being the nurse's boss as well as an elected administrator of the governmental operations of the jail left the couple an advantage. The jailer was able to give his new harlot a series of unwarranted pay raises on the taxpayer's dime, essentially relieving himself from his own financial obligations as a man and father. According to the couple's interrogatory statements, The couple even began cohabitating and sharing finances, where Scarborough's only responsibility at the home was to help with a few groceries and pay child support for the child he left behind, which would prove to be quite a simple task after it is realized that Scarborough and Brown had ultimately managed to increase Brown's pay by a whopping 136% before a formal complaint was finally filed by none other than the former elected jailer, Troy Seeley.
We're going to argue about what that all means later after you've heard evidence. But the bottom line is those are the provisions of the ordinance that we'll be focusing on this evening. We're also here tonight because in my assessment, the ordinance requires substantial proof. In my assessment of the complaint, Mr. Seeley has presented to the commission in his complaint substantial proof that Mr. Scarborough, as jailer, violated those standards of conduct. You're going to hear how he did that, and you're going to hear that he did that by giving raises, unwarranted raises, to his girlfriend and the mother of his child after they began that romantic relationship. The bottom line on this is that you'll hear a lot of things that may rise to the level of excuses, but ultimately I'm going to ask you to be diligent in your assessment of the ordinance. Yes, the ordinance is what will guide us to our conclusion this evening. And I think that after you've heard all the evidence, you will conclude that there is substantial evidence to believe that Jailer Scarborough violated the Meade County standards of conduct. Thank you.
As soon as word of the upcoming hearing became public, Scarborough and Brown immediately began a defense campaign on YouTube, accusing the complainant and former jailer of lying about the facts of the case, saying that the whole thing was nothing more than political sour grapes. This wouldn't be the first time that Scarborough made false accusations against the former jailer. During Scarborough's campaign, Scarborough alleged that Mr. Seeley had been stealing from the county, a claim that led to a state investigation lasting 2 years, which eventually proved to be based on nothing more than Scarborough's claims. Scarborough alleged to have obtained official records, which he had turned over to the state's auditor, that would prove beyond any doubt that his claims against Seeley would be substantiated. But when the investigators finally obtained the documents, they quickly learned that there was nothing in them to suggest any sort of wrongdoing on Seeley or his administration. So it comes as no surprise that Brown and Scarborough's defense in this case wouldn't amount to much more than falsely accusing Seeley of harassing them and comparing Brown's pay to other, more profitable fields of nursing, which proved to be an unrealistic comparison due to the fact that Amber is an LPN and not a registered nurse, nor has she achieved any further certification in the nursing field beyond what she had when she was originally employed at the jail.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Ethics Commission, facts have a stubborn way of just being facts. And interestingly, you're not going to make a lot of factual determinations tonight. We agree on a lot of the facts. To make it easy on you all, I took Mr. Seeley's complaint and I took a lot of his attachments to use them to give you all statistical information about salaries, about Miss Brown's salaries, about the medical costs at the jail, and all of those sorts of things. Now, what Mr. Seeley and what Mr. Ricketts are trying to sell you is, hey, this story sells itself. Amber Brown works for J.J. Scarborough at the jail. They begin a romantic relationship. Her income goes up. Oh my goodness, it's a scandal. They didn't tell you that under Mr. Scarborough's watch, he brought the head count up in the jail almost 100 people. He didn't tell you that Mr. Seeley employed 2 nurses, and that one had to be let go, and then Mr. Seeley kept trying to hire additional nurses, and they kept quitting and going elsewhere. So now he's got 1 nurse who's doing the duty of 2 nurses. He didn't tell you that Mr. Seeley has checked the market on what it costs to employ an LPN. Right now, you can go work as an LPN over at Brandenburg Nursing and Rehab for $32 an hour. Amber Brown makes $33. You want to take care of 160, 200 prisoners, or do you want to take care of old people? Which job's easier, right? They didn't tell you that in last summer, 2023, he saw a bid to outsource medical costs to third parties. What does that mean? That means Amber Brown loses a job. He's going to see if it's cheaper. Turns out it wasn't. So you see, they're trying to sell you this quick sensational headline, but they don't give you all the rest of these facts. Now there's a lot more that's going to go into this. You're going to hear from J.J. Scarborough. You're going to hear from Andrew Brown. They're both here. We turned over what we got. There's nothing to hide. Let me tell you something else. Why are we here? 2014 election for jailer. That was the year. I've been in Meade County since I was 1970. Well, I take that back. My parents lived in Owensboro the first 3 months of my life. But I guess we got back here it's still 1970. I've been voting in county elections since 1988. This used to be the bluest county across the state. It sort of turns. Right? 2014 was when the Republican kind of wave shifted in Meade County and people started voting Republican mostly in local elections. Troy Seeley got beat. It wasn't a surprise. He's a Democrat. I voted Democrat that year. I voted for Troy Seeley. I bet JJ didn't know that. I've never told him. You know? But that was the way. And since then, Mr. Seeley, every 3 or 4 months, he sends Jailer Scarborough open records requests. He's trying to find something. Because he got his feelings hurt when he lost. And elections do hurt. Everything's said back and forth in this election, right?
An interesting and irrelevant tactic was used by Scarborough's defense attorney, who instead of arguing the reasons for these unwarranted raises, appears to turn the hearing into a political smear campaign between 2 political rivals, when the former jailer has expressed no interest in any sort of office, now or in the future. But perhaps what you may find even more questionable is that they argue that other local elected officials failed to take any sort of legal or criminal action when presented with the factual evidence that was provided to them by the former jailer, whose painstakingly diligent efforts uncovered an obvious case of corruption and official misconduct under the Kentucky criminal statutes of Section 522.020, which reads, official misconduct in the first degree. A public servant is guilty of official misconduct in the first degree when, with intent to obtain or confer a benefit, or to injure another person, or to deprive another person of a benefit, he knowingly a. commits an act relating to his office which constitutes an unauthorized exercise of his official functions, and c. violates any statute or lawfully adopted rule or regulation relating to his office, which is punishable as a Class A misdemeanor.
He's tried to get former Judge Executive Leslie Stith to investigate JJ, Meade County Sheriff, Sidney Durham, Meade County Attorney, and our Commonwealth Attorney, Rick Hart. Rick Harden, supposed to be here. He's going to testify. He'll tell you the results of what he found. No wrongdoing. Okay?
If at the end of this hearing it is found that the allegations against Scarborough are supported by enough relevant facts brought by Seeley, it might also become apparent that the other elected officials mentioned may be neglecting their duties as well.
That's why we're really here. But I don't want you just to rely on our word that he's just got his feelings hurt and is here. I'm going to give you a bunch of facts too, because that's what you deserve. And you need to know everything. And we're going to be open. We're going to be an open book. They'll answer any question you got. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to call Mr. Seeley.
In this video, I'm only going to highlight a few segments of each testimony, as the full hearing is 3 hours long. I will put a link in the description of this video to the full unedited version for those who wish to watch it.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. Chair, I've got some documents. You already have these, but I wanted to make them part of the record, if that's okay with you. May I approach you, sir?
Yes.
I'm just going to put these in front of you, and I'll be referencing them and marking them as we go through, if that's okay. Doug, for the record, those are the attachments to the complaint.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Seeley, you've already been sworn. You've heard the openings from counsel. Are you the former jailer of Meade County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Valls, in his opening, mentioned that in the 2014 election, Mr. Scarborough beat you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Prior to that date, how long were you the jailer?
I was elected in 2003.
Okay. So you had a long run of government service. How many years was that?
3 terms,
Okay.
12 years.
12 years. And during those terms of jailer, did you learn how the jail runs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And subsequent to that period as jailer, did you have an opportunity to make open records requests of your county officials?
Yes.
Okay. And now I'll be referring to the documents that you've attached to your complaint. And I'm referring to a document which at the top of it has the title, Employee Summary Listing, Jail Fund All Departments. Do you recall that document?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's a one-page document that you attach to your complaint. Would you briefly just tell the commission what that document is and why? Let me just ask you to move this along. Does this document just list all the employees of the Meade County Jail?
That's correct.
Okay. And this document was given to you in March of 2024, correct?
Correct.
And does Jailer Scarborough's name appear on that document?
Yes, sir, it does.
And does the name Amber Brown appear on that document?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. So it's safe to say you provided that document to show that Jailer Scarborough and Amber Brown are both technically employees of the jail. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Turning to the next document, which is a one-page document entitled Meade County Fiscal Court Jail Funds All Department Employee Pay Rates Listing Summary. Do you have that document for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And for the Ethics Commission, I'm going to mark this first document as number 1. I'll keep track of that and trade those out. That's okay. The next document I'm going to mark as number 2. And is it safe to say that this document lists the current pay rates for all jail employees?
That is correct.
Okay. And on this document, does it list Amber Brown?
Yes, sir, it does.
And what does it list her current pay rate as?
$33.44 an hour.
So is this document submitted to you, submitted by you to the Ethics Commission for the proposition that as of March 6, 2024, Amber Brown makes $33.44 per hour?
Yes, sir, it is.
Moving on to the next document. And this document is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages long. And at the top, this document is entitled Meade County Fiscal Court Employee Pay Rates History. And it is from August 12, 2014 until August 8, 2023. And it lists the name Amber Brown. Is this document the pay history of Miss Amber Brown for her time at the Meade County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. And again, is this another document which you received as response to your open records request?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. I'm going to mark that as number 3. The next document, I'm going to combine these. 2-page document. It's entitled Meade County Fiscal Court Employee Summary Listing for Parks. And the second page to that is pay rates listing for the Parks Department. Do you see those documents?
Yes, sir.
And you submit these documents to show who's employed in the Parks Department as of March 6, 2024 and what their pay rates are.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. I'm going to mark that as number 4. Number 5 is a document that you received on or about March 6th of 2024. And like the Parks Department, this is the same sort of document for parks except for solid waste. Correct?
That's correct.
And page 1 of this document shows all of the employees for that department, and page 2 shows all of the pay rates for the employees in that department. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I'm going to mark that as number 5. Number 6, same document is for parks and for solid waste, except this one is for planning and zoning, correct?
Yes, sir.
2-page document, and it lists all the employees for planning and zoning on the first page of that document. And on the second page of that document, it lists all the pay rates for those employees for planning and zoning.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that correct? That's number 6. Number 7, following the same pattern, this is the road fund department. You've got a list on the first page of that document of all the employees of the road fund. And on the second page of that document, you have all the pay rates for all of the employees of the road fund department, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, this is as of March 6, 2024,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Mark that as 7. Just like all the other documents, these are documents that you received in response to open records requests.
Yes, sir.
The document I'm going to mark as number 8 is for emergency services. This is a little bit longer document because I guess there's just more employees. And according to, so this is a 4-page document. So 8 has 4 pages. The first page and the second page list all of the employees for the emergency services department, correct?
Yes, sir.
And they list, again, in all these lists, they list them by specific name and their title, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then on the last 2 pages of 8, you obtain all the pay rates for the employees that were listed in the first 2 pages of the emergency medical services department, correct?
Yes, sir.
Very good. That's number 8. Number 9 is animal control. That is a 2-page document following the same pattern. You have all the employees for animal control for Meade County, and you have their pay rates on the second page of number 9. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And for number 10, for number 10, you have the LGEA fund. And what is LGEA fund?
That's a fund that's included in the budget that is able to pay for several things, including employee salaries.
Looks like these are mostly dispatchers. But you've got a list of all the people that are paid under this LGEA fund by the Meade County Fiscal Court on the first part of number 10, first page of number 10, correct?
Yes, sir.
And on the second page of number 10, you have all of their pay rates, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, just like all the other documents, they list them by name, by title, and by their pay rates, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And lastly, you have document number, what I'm marking as 11, which I understood that this is the one document you did not receive from Meade County Fiscal Court. You received this directly from the Meade County Sheriff's Department, is that correct?
That is correct.
And was this document received in response to an open records request you made?
Yes, sir.
And this document is titled Employee Pay Rates Listing Summary for the Meade County Sheriff's Department. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And does this document list all of the employees of the Meade County Sheriff's Department and their pay rates?
Yes, sir, it does.
Very good. So to be clear, you received all of these documents in response to open records requests you made of either Meade County Fiscal Court or the Meade County Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's go ahead and turn our attention to the document which I have marked as number 3, which is the employee pay rates history for Miss Amber Brown. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about her pay history. You testified that you lost the general election in November of 2014, correct?
Yes, sir.
Which means that Jailer Scarborough took over on what date in 2015?
January 5th.
January 5th. Okay. Now, looking at her pay history, is it true that on March 13th, 2015, less than 3 months before, after he took office, he increased Amber Brown's pay by 60 cents?
Yes, I believe it was 59 cents. It was a 4.1% increase. He increased her pay from $14.17 to $14.76.
Okay, so 59 cents. So when you left the position of jailer, she was making $14.17 per hour.
That is correct.
Okay. On March 15th, her pay was increased by 59 cents to $14.76.
That is correct.
That same year, July 3rd, 2015, did she receive another raise?
Yes, sir. She received an 8.26% raise. She went from $14.76 to $15.98.
Okay. In September of 2015, so September 11th, 2015, did she receive another raise?
Yes, sir. She received a 4.05% raise. She went from $15.98 to $16.63.
So in the first year of him taking over that position, she received 3 raises. Is that fair?
In 2015, she received 3 raises. That is correct.
Thereafter, is it fair to say from her records that every year in July, she received additional pay raises?
That is correct.
Okay, and we're going to take those one at a time. The next pay raise she received was July 1, 2016, thereabouts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How much was that raise for?
It was 10.75%. She went from $16.63 to $18.42.
Okay. In July of 2017, 1 year later, did she receive another pay increase?
Yes, she did.
And how much was that?
That was 4.15%. She went from $18.42 to $19.18.
In July of 2018, 1 year later, did she receive another increase?
She did.
How much was that increase for?
That raise was 33.92%. She went from $19.18 to $25.69.
Of the increases she received thus far, that is the largest percentage increase and largest dollar amount increase, correct?
Yes, sir.
So prior to this date, she had been receiving $1.1968, 59 cents, $1.79, 76 cents. This time she gets a $6.51 increase, correct?
That is correct.
So she's gone, since you left, the position of jailer, she was making $14.17, but in July of 2018, she's already making $25.69, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Was there anything significant about that year in your mind that led you to believe that there was a reason for that increase being so dramatic in 2018?
I would object. That would call for speculation at best. But I think we ought to stick to facts.
I think if he can testify to it, he can. Let's let him lay the foundation.
But we need to get a foundation laid.
Did anything happen in 2018 that would precipitate your conclusion that that increase was much higher than other years?
That would be an election year. Basically, no opposition filed against Mr. Scarborough to run for that year.
After running unopposed in the next election cycle, Scarborough and Brown celebrated with an incredible pay increase of a whopping 33%, bringing Brown's salary up by more than 50%, just in time to accommodate for the couple's conception of their illegitimate child, which would also be the final nail in the proverbial coffin to Scarborough's divorce, and prompting Scarborough to be kicked out of the family home and move in with Brown. What a busy year for JJ and Amber that between 2019 and 2020 must have been.
The next year would be July of 2019. And did Miss Brown receive a pay raise in July of 2019?
Yes, sir, she did.
How much was that raise?
4.14%, and it raised her from $25.69 to $26.75.
Okay. And so at this point in time, since he took office, Miss Brown's pay has increased by over $11.50. By my math, it's about $11.99. That sound about right to you?
That sounds about right. Without looking.
Okay. Again, one more year later, July of 2020, did Miss Amber Brown receive another pay raise?
She did.
And what was that pay raise amount?
4.46%. She went from $25.75 to $27.94.
In 2021, July, did Miss Brown receive another pay raise?
Yes, she did.
How much was that pay raise for?
She received a 9.75% pay raise. She went from $27.94 to $30.66.
$30.66?
That's correct.
So that pay raise was for approximately $2.72 an hour?
Yes, sir.
Correct. And so now she's gone from $14.17 when you left office to $30.66 per hour, correct?
That's correct.
For an increase of $15.90 per hour, which by my math has doubled her original pay when you left office.
That's correct.
July of 2022, did she receive another pay raise?
Yes, sir, she did.
And how much was that pay raise for?
4.46%. She went from $30.66 to $32.03.
And lastly, in July of last year, 2023, did Miss Amber Brown receive another pay raise?
Yes, sir, she did.
How much was that for?
4.41%.
And what did that take her pay rate to?
She went from $32.03 to $33.44 an hour.
Okay. Now, have you calculated how much of the percent increase Ms. Amber Brown has received since Jailer Scarborough in her hourly pay? Since Jailer Scarborough has taken office, what percentage has she received of an increase in her hourly pay?
Yes, sir, I have calculated that, and Ms. Brown has received a 136% raise since Mr. Scarborough's taken office.
As it turns out, the taxpayers of Meade County, Kentucky, learning that their elected jailer has not only given his girlfriend a 136% raise in pay, but they are about to be surprised to find out that Brown is also now the highest paid hourly employee in the entire county.
Did you have an opportunity from the other documents that you've just testified to that you had received from Meade County Fiscal Court? Did you have an opportunity to compare Miss Amber Brown's salary to other employees of Meade County?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And based upon the records which you received from either the Meade County Fiscal Court or from the Meade County Sheriff Department, what did you conclude about Miss Amber's current pay as compared to other employees of the Meade County Fiscal Court or the Meade County Sheriff's Department?
Based upon those documents, Amber Brown is the highest paid employee at the jail other than the jailer himself, and she is the highest hourly paid employee in Meade County.
So she makes more money right now than the Stephen Powell, the Parks Director.
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than the planning and zoning administrator, Christopher Kincaid?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Jeff Padgett, the county road supervisor?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Jacob Butler, the solid waste coordinator?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Jared Miller, the 911 director?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Amanda Sturgeon, the county payroll clerk?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Randall Wilson, the county grant writer?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Jennifer Henderson, the animal control director?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Andy Week, if I'm pronouncing that properly, the county facilities manager?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Jennifer Pruitt, the assistant county attorney?
Yes, she does.
Does she make more money than Dennis Ray Whitehead, chief deputy sheriff's office?
Yes, she does.
Despite the numerous interviews that both Scarborough and Brown have given on YouTube, where they insist that Seeley is harassing them, Seeley gives this statement under oath during the hearing.
Mr. Seeley, you heard Mr. Val's opening, and he wants to claim on behalf of Mr. Scarborough that every 3 or 4 months you were a thorn in his side by sending open records requests to him. Did you hear him say that?
Yes, I did.
Are you trying to be a thorn in Mr. Scarborough's side?
No, sir.
Is it true that you were perpetually pestering Jailer Scarborough?
That's incorrect.
The plaintiffs later established that most likely, Scarborough was also abusing his authority as a records keeper for the county when he only began searching for comparable medical pricing for the jail staff after Scarborough received a records request for information regarding his girlfriend's salary.
When did Jailer Scarborough become aware that you had made open records requests relative to Amber Brown's pay?
Prior to that date.
So before that day.
Yes, sir.
So at the time he received this proposal from Southern Health Partners, he was aware that you had made open records requests of Amber Brown.
Yes, sir.
You've also heard testimony, or at least argument, and I'm sure Mr. Val's will have an opportunity to ask you more questions about this. But Mr. Val's and Mr. Scarborough want to lead the commission to believe that you're here over sour grapes, that you're just sour that you lost the election in 2014. Is that why you're here today?
No, sir, it's not.
Why are you here?
The issue is, I'm retired, and the issue being that, I'm still interested in local government and what happens. And when you hear things that you possibly think are unethical or illegal, it's all of our responsibility to look into those things and to see what was true and what is not true.
Do you have reason to believe that Jailer Scarborough began his relationship with Amber Brown shortly after he was elected in 2014?
Yes, I do.
Isn't it true in accordance with his response that he filed in this matter? He acknowledged that he began to date Amber Brown in the summer of 2015. Is that correct?
That's what his response is. Yes, sir.
And that's the same year he gave Ms. Brown 3 raises.
That's correct.
The plaintiffs also show that Scarborough flat out lied on record about giving Brown a series of pay raises in the same year that Scarborough assumed office.
So if in Mr. Scarborough's response he stated that during the entire fiscal year of 2015, once he took office in January of 2015, Brown's hourly rate remained at $14.17. Based upon the records that you had before you, would that be true?
That is false.
And is that in reference to the 2 raises the 1 raise she received in March of 2015?
That is correct.
So that would have happened during the fiscal year that he took over in January of 2015, correct?
Yes. In his response, he said that it remained the same, but it did not remain the same. He did give her an increase in March.
When Scarborough's attorney began his line of questioning, he quickly raised the topic of the local elected officials in the duty of law enforcement, failing to take legal action against Scarborough when confronted with Seeley's findings.
Good evening, Mr. Seeley. Prior to filing this complaint with the Ethics Commission against Jailer Scarborough, have you spoken to other elected officials asking them to look into what you thought was misfeasance or malfeasance committed by J.J. Scarborough?
I'm sure I've asked several people.
Have you spoken to Sidney Durham, the county attorney?
Yes, I have spoken to Sidney Durham. Yes, sir.
You asked her to take action, didn't you?
I asked her what the process was for the filing, since you file ethics complaints through her. I asked what the procedure was at for, if this was actually, the thing with anything, you have to find out what the truth is from the open records. You cannot, if you ask anybody in county government, they're not willing to provide that information without in open records. I mean, you can't ask people's salaries. You can't ask anything without documenting that information.
Well, that's not really what I'm asking, I don't guess. You asked Sidney more than just what the process was, didn't you? You asked her to look into what you thought were misdeeds committed by Scarborough.
I had a conversation with Sidney. I'm not exactly sure exactly what that was, but I did ask, you know, if this is going on, if this is actual, true, and factual, is that an unethical matter that can be brought forth?
Well, she declined to take any action about this, didn't she?
She couldn't take any action. She said it had to be filed through the Ethics Commission.
If there had been a crime committed in Meade County, she could have taken a complaint, couldn't she?
There's a difference between a crime and an ethics violation order.
Now, you spoke to Leslie Stiff, the prior judge executive as well, didn't you?
I did speak to Leslie Stitt. Yes, sir, I did.
Now, when did his term end?
I'm assuming in January, what is it, 20, I'm not sure when the new judge took over.
It was at least a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Did he take over the 23rd or the 24th?
I can't remember. Probably January 20th. I can't remember exactly.
I'm thinking it was a recent, maybe the 24th.
I don't think it was the 24th.
I'm not sure.
But I'm not real political, so I don't know. I don't keep up too much. So anyway, you were looking into this matter at least as far as back as prior to when Judge Coke became judge, right?
Yes, sir. I did ask about the situation prior to that.
Okay. So just to be clear, you know, the axe was grinding 2 or 3 years ago too, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't 2 to 3 years ago.
Okay.
But
no. All right. You talked to Philip Wimpy, Meade County Sheriff, didn't you? Because of course everything gets around in a small town. I know everything.
No, I talked, Philip asked, different things. Yes, sir, we had a conversation. Yes, sir, we did.
But you sure talked about, you thought that that JJ was committing some type of misfeasance or malfeasance and that he ought to look into it, didn't you?
I thought what JJ had done is unethical, and I still think it's unethical. And
you also talked to the Commonwealth attorney, Rick Harden, didn't you?
Yes, sir, I did.
And asked him to look into it.
I asked him specifically. When you have to ask if there's an ethical violation, you have to ask.
You asked him to do an. He's going to say you asked him to do an investigation, and he investigated it. He's going to testify. So I want to hear the truth from you first. Well, then
that is the truth. I had a conversation with Rick Harden, and I told you that up front.
But you asked him to investigate, didn't you?
I laid out the circumstances of what it is, what the process was.
Okay.
I gave him the facts and said, is there a violation here?
Did he investigate? Did he tell you that he investigated?
He advised me that there wasn't anything that he could do. You have to go through the local body. It was an ethics ordinance.
It is unclear whether Seeley had obtained all the necessary records at the point in which he had spoken to officials in administration and law enforcement. But if the findings of this hearing prove the allegation forged against Scarborough are backed by enough facts, this would indicate a direct failure on their part to have properly investigated the situation. For reasons that remain unclear, as they are not relevant to the case against Scarborough, the defense attorney spends a considerable amount of time attacking Seeley's tenure as jail administration.
under your watch, do you have a federal lawsuit filed against you for failure to provide proper medical care to Jennifer Titus?
It's possible. When you're the jailer in the county, you get a lot of lawsuits.
I got it here.
Yeah, no, I'm saying you get a lot of lawsuits.
You said it's possible. Is it true or not?
Yes, I mean, it's possible. The names Jennifer Titus don't ring. I mean, that's been I've been out of office for a long time. The issue is, to mention a lawsuit is different than reading exactly what the outcome of that is. What is the outcome of that? It's dismissed, isn't it? So
I don't know if that one was or not. I thought maybe you'd remember getting sued.
Yeah, you get sued all the time as a jailer because anybody can file a lawsuit against you, but it doesn't mean that it goes anywhere.
Now, how about Carolyn Brown?
Carolyn Brown.
County paid on that one, didn't they? How much did they pay on that one?
Have no idea.
Do you remember?
Have no idea.
You don't remember.
HECO represents you. The insurance company represents you, and they don't tell you. They don't tell you if they represent you. In a lot of lawsuits, you have to understand it is easier for them to pay off a lawsuit than to defend it. You know that as a lawyer.
Okay. Well, did you do any open record requests seeing if Jailer Scarborough has been sued for providing improper medical care in his firm?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
I took the liberty to do a quick record search to see if we could shed any light on Scarborough's attorney's question. If whether or not Scarborough is facing any lawsuit concerning medical care. It wasn't necessarily a surprise to find that multiple suits currently exist, specifically alleging insufficient medical care at the Meade County, Kentucky jail and under Scarborough and Brown's watch. Scarborough and Brown have spent a significant amount of time with their YouTube followers, convincing them that the decision to raise Brown's pay was always only the fiscal court's decision, when it turns out that although the fiscal court has the ultimate authority over budget approvals, they don't specifically know how much of a line item budget goes to any particular employee's salary.
So, you present a budget to fiscal court. Is that how that works?
You present by April 1st of every year. You have to, by law, present a budget to fiscal court. You, along with the county treasurer, you get with her and I always submit mine to the county treasurer and ask if there was any issues. She would look it over and she would submit it to fiscal court. That would be my submit. I make sure they have it by April 1st of every year.
Okay, so, and then when does the fiscal court approve, for instance, the jail and all the other departments, their budgets for the upcoming fiscal year normal? Is it in June or is it May?
A lot of times they review it in like maybe a fiscal court meeting in May, maybe, and then it's actually the budget is an ordinance, so they have to do 2 readings on it.
Yeah.
And there's just different things, but I think the final approval maybe is, it's either in May or June.
Okay. So you give it to them April 1st, so that the county treasurer and the fiscal court has a long time to review the budget.
Yes, sir. They do.
All right. And then it's really up to fiscal court whether they approve that budget or not.
Fiscal court has the right to approve that budget or not. Yeah.
Oh, no. So when the fiscal court approves a budget, they've approved the salaries that have been proposed by the head of whichever county department that submitted their budget, haven't they?
Not necessarily.
Now, the salaries are listed on there.
No, they're not.
Where are they listed?
They're not listed at all. They give the magistrates, they get the copy of their proposed budget. The proposed budget lists categories only. If it says, I want to give my deputy jailers $1 million, it's one line item. No salaries are listed on that period. If we want to give medical staff, it might be listed, my medical staff, $90,000. Not one piece of paper is submitted that shows each individual salary.
All right. Now did they review? Does the fiscal court then at some point review the financials of each department throughout the year or toward the end of the fiscal year? Do they review how the departments spent their money? Do you have to give a report?
of how they spent their money. It just your line items will just if you're having a problem in a line item, say that your whatever it is, utilities or whatever you've got on your line item, if there's a problem there, usually the county treasurer will catch that and she'll bring it to the fiscal court's attention because fiscal court pays the claims and transfers on a monthly basis. But the claims and transfers do not include the employee's salaries. When they get that sheet every month, it doesn't say what the employee's salaries are. It just has that line item. If you've got, say, for example, hypothetically, $1 million in that line item, then now you've only got $800,000 because you paid your employees that month, and each month it goes down. But it don't list John Brown was paid this. That's not what they review on a monthly basis.
And I think it was at this point that they knew they fucked up.
So you created a document as part of your, investigation or inquiry, I guess, that included the salaries of LPNs at other jails in Kentucky.
Yes, sir. And
some of those jails were regionally close to Meade County.
That's correct. Most of the ones that are close to Meade County.
Okay. And what I'm hearing you testify to is that and you testified to Hart, Hardin, Grayson, and Breck. You've testified that you have some hesitancy because of your memory and you don't have your notes with you in front of you. I understand that. But from what you recall sitting here today, did any of the other LPNs in any of these other counties make as much as Miss Brown?
No, they did not.
So Miss Brown, of all of the jails you called, was the highest paid LPN.
That's correct.
That's all I have.
Before we move on to the next witness, an important note should be made in this next clip. The answer to this next question could very well establish whether or not, in Scarborough's first year in office, if he was already basing his pay raise decisions on favoritism towards his girlfriend, or if he was treating the staff equally across the board.
I have one more question if you don't mind. I know we got to move along. You testified Miss Manning left in 2015.
That's correct, and that was also included in their response.
Yes, and she began with you in 2007.
That's correct.
Okay. And you testified that Miss Brown received 3 raises in 2015. Did Miss what was her last name? Mattingly. Thank you. I was going to say Mitchell. Did Miss Mattingly receive any raises in 2015 before she left?
No, she did not. No, she did not. She didn't.
Okay, so she was the senior LPN. In March and in July of 2015, Miss Brown got raises, correct?
Yes, sir.
But she did not.
No, Miss Mattingly did not get a raise at the same time.
And she did, and then she left in August of 2000.
She left in April.
In April 2015. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it was just that one pay raise that Amber got that Miss Mattingly did not.
That is correct.
Right, that's all I have.
I don't know about you, but I certainly want to hear what the District Attorney Prosecutor Rick Hardin has to say about the reasons he decided not to investigate this case as a potential criminal matter.
Thank you.
Look, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Well, Mr. Hardin, thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you personally. I know how many kids you got, how many little kids you got, under 10?
They're running around Meade County this fun.
All right. So I know you're busy. But thanks for coming. How are you currently employed?
I'm the Commonwealth attorney for the 46th Circuit.
And what does the 46th Circuit comprise?
Meade, Breckenridge, and Glenville.
And is that an office to which one must be elected?
Yes.
And when did you take office?
2019.
All right. And do you have attorneys that work for you, assistant Commonwealth attorneys?
I do.
How many do you have?
2.5.
2.5.
2.5.
So you have some part-times?
Sure.
Okay. And do you also have an office staff that reports to you and helps support you and the other attorneys in what they do?
Sure.
What is your main responsibility as a Commonwealth attorney?
Prosecuting criminal cases.
Felonies?
Yes.
All right. And now you have some other qualifications that people may not know about. For instance, is it the Commonwealth attorney's job to provide election results to the grand jury for the grand jury's approval?
Yes, every election process has to be submitted to the grand jury, and literally every single documented piece of evidence in that election file has to be approved by the grand jury.
Okay.
So they can actually recall an election.
Is there anything else that a Commonwealth attorney is supposed to do that other people may not be aware of?
Remove county officials.
All right. And can you first tell me what the statutory authority for removing county officials is?
Yes, it's Kentucky Revised Statute 61.170.
Kentucky Statute 61.170. Malfeasance or neglect of county officers, county judges, executive, justices of the peace, sheriffs, coroners, surveyors, jailers, county attorneys, and constables may be indicted in the county in which they reside for misfeasance or malfeasance in office, or willful neglect in the discharge of official duties. In Kentucky, misfeasance is when a public servant performs a legal act incorrectly, while malfeasance is when a public servant intentionally does something harmful. Both misfeasance and malfeasance can be charged as official misconduct in Kentucky. Official misconduct in Kentucky is a misdemeanor charge that occurs when a public servant abuses their power for personal or financial gain. It can include acts such as violating laws, failing to perform duties, or committing unauthorized acts.
There's a standard of misfeasance or malfeasance, obviously. I inform every single grand jury at new term that is one of their duties. They have investigative authority, and that if any county official, if any misfeasance or malfeasance is reported, either they are to bring that to me, or if I'm aware of that, I investigate, and if it's necessary, I'll bring that to the grand jury, at which point in time, if they indict on misfeasance or malfeasance, they will be removed from office.
Okay. So, misfeasance and malfeasance.
Basically the same thing, it turns out.
But it turns out lawyers use those words. A lot of people don't.
Correct.
How would you describe what misfeasance is?
Simplest way is wrongdoing by a public official.
What about malfeasance?
Basically the same thing.
Okay.
Mis and mal, those don't really have, I don't know why they put mis or mal. I don't know why they did that.
Okay.
Rick, if you're watching, let us help you out. Misfeasance is when a public servant performs a legal act incorrectly, while malfeasance is when a public servant intentionally does something harmful.
Gotcha. Was a request made to you to look into Jail Scarborough?
Yes, there was an inquiry.
And who made that inquiry of you?
Troy Seeley.
Do you know when he made that inquiry?
I do not recall when that was. Within the last 3 or 4 months.
Okay. And, did you do your job and investigate it?
I did. He gave me a specific set of facts. It was about an employee at the detention center, and wanted to know if that was misfeasance or malfeasance that would constitute bringing that to the grand jury. I told him I'd have to do some research and get back to him, and I did the research, and I got back with him.
All right, and based on the research you did, and you took the facts as he gave them to you.
Yes.
What he told you the facts were, you just took them verbatim.
I did.
And based on the facts he told you, you didn't see that it meant any type of misfeasance or malfeasance.
Well, it's not. If there was anything there to take to a grand jury, I would have taken it. But technically, I'm the state. I'm the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That's my title. So if the state is going to remove a county official, there would be no other way to do that except for by statute, or assembly has enacted. So if he did not go forward on any of his duties as a jailer, as enacted by our legislature, then there's nothing for me to go forward on. So I had to go through his duties as a jailer, apply those facts to whether or not there was misfeasance or malfeasance under Chapter 71.
Considering that Chapter 71 covers only the most basic of requirements, I highly suspect that the Commonwealth attorney can use a much more broad perspective of law to address violations of misfeasance or malfeasance. But then again, we are talking about a Commonwealth attorney that didn't know there is any difference between the two. And by this logic, a jailer could commit a murder without repercussions if the Commonwealth attorney were actually restricted to the boundaries of Chapter 71.
All right. And did you find that there was enough to present to a grand jury?
No.
All right. So you didn't.
Well, that wasn't even the major problem with it. The major problem with it is by statute. Specifically, the jailer is only required to give the fiscal court a personnel list and a budget. The two do not correspond, which means he has full discretion in whatever he pays each employee. And by that token, that just eliminated any possibility of ever bringing this to a grand jury, because if he has full discretion at that point in time, well, how can there be misfeasance or malfeasance when there's full discretion?
Corruption is a type of malfeasance. Malfeasance is a general term for illegal or dishonest acts, while corruption is a specific type of malfeasance that involves public officials. Corruption defined. Corruption is a legal term that refers to dishonest or illegal conduct by people in power. It can also be defined as the abuse of power for personal gain. Corruption can occur in many areas of society, including politics, business, education, and media. Examples of corruption: bribery, embezzlement, abuse of power, violating laws or regulations, concealing material facts, using a position for personal gain, using deceptive methods to persuade a court or jury. Corruption is a type of malfeasance that involves public officials or people in positions of authority. Corruption can undermine public trust in government and have serious consequences for society.
Well, how can there be misfeasance or malfeasance when there's full discretion?
Understood. That's all the questions I have.
Right.
Mr. Hart, good evening. How are you, sir?
Doing well.
Thank you for coming in. So your testimony today is that he didn't, the jailer's behavior as represented to you by Mr. Seeley didn't rise to the level of malfeasance or misfeasance, correct?
Only with regards to that employee. There, I won't want to say behavior. If we are talking specifically about what I was told was there was substantial raises given to an employee.
Right.
So if we were talking about that specific thing, then my answer is yes.
And your conclusion that is based in part upon the fact that he has absolute discretion under the Kentucky Route statutes as to how he sets his salaries.
Yes.
Okay. But you make no opinion today as to whether or not there are local ethics ordinances which may govern how he grants raises.
I have not looked into any ethical considerations in any way, shape, or form. If it's not on my plate, I don't eat.
I understand. But just to hammer this point home, you make no position, give no opinion today as to whether or not the behavior that's alleged by Mr. Seeley is a violation of the Meade County Ethics Ordinance.
Oh no, I wouldn't have any take on that in any way, shape, or form.
Understood. In fact, you prosecute criminal offenses, correct?
I do.
Okay. And have you read the Meade County Ethics Ordinance?
No.
So it wouldn't surprise you, or would it surprise you to know that it characterizes any finding by the Ethics Commission here tonight as a civil violation as opposed to a criminal violation?
No, that's it. But actually, that would be perfectly normal.
Right. So it's possible, under the scenario you're talking about, that Jailer Seeley, with his discretion, can grant whatever raises he wants under the Kentucky Revised Statutes, but it's also possible that he might be violating Meade County Ethics Ordinance in the way he gave those raises.
I would say yes, but at the same time, you're saying is something possible on,
Right. I know it's a problem.
on ethics that I haven't even looked at.
Understood.
So,
fair enough. I appreciate you
don't
coming.
know.
I appreciate you coming in.
All right.
Just want to make sure we can.
If I read them, I could probably say there is a possibility or there's not a possibility, but I haven't read them. I don't.
Do you remember speaking to Mr. Seeley?
Yeah.
Did you tell him, or would you have recalled saying anything to him that this was a local issue and not a state issue?
No. I don't believe I would have had that conversation again. I'm pretty frank with people in regards to, while, chapter 61 is my duty and it is my function, certainly nobody likes being put in the position of even inquiring into, our public officials.
Sure.
We all like to think the best, of the people that have been elected. So, it was more just he gave me a series of facts. I mean, I know Troy. I've known Troy for a long time. I'm sure we had a casual conversation before and after the set of facts, but by all means, it was really just kind of directly on point about a removal inquiry.
You made no opinion whatsoever about the ethics ordinance.
I couldn't.
Got it. That's all I have, Chairman.
That's all.
Due to the length of this video and the importance of relevant information that each testimony provides, I'm making the executive decision to split this hearing up into 2 parts. I'm sure that you are all eager to hear what kind of excuses that Brown and Scarborough may come up with while being deposed on the stand and under oath. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that when we release the second and final episode, you receive a notification. Please let us know if you've enjoyed our content so far by selecting a thumbs up or down, and leave a comment in the video comments section. I'd love to hear your opinions for both the channel as well as your thoughts in this case. Until then, we will see you on the next one.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just open up. Don't be I'm so gone, no I'm never turning back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so on, you're gonna be hurting bad. Cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad, I stay strong. You will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you're gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math, when I hate I attack. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just open up.